Show on Dark City, our Evolution Radio. And tonight we've got a guest on, which will be Prajna and Kali, talking about their experiences with the Lawful Rebellion movement, the Freemanisms, the struggles that comes with it, and the joys too. But before we start all that, I'd like to talk about this project you've got going, the Ashton allotments.
Sure, man, no worries. My name's Paul. Most people call me Bob, from Bob's Backyard. I started a project with a group of others, but the main guy who kicked it off with me was Nigel Rawlins, who's going to be coming and doing some stuff on the show in the coming weeks once we do go live. The project basically is we took 250,000 square meters of land back, basically off the rich elite, I suppose you could call them. There is at the side of this land, there's been an illegal tip, no tipping licenses, no charges or anything. But unfortunately, one of your guests has come on and the microphone's not muted. Dom, it's wiping me out.
Sorry, that was me.
So yeah, the project was about 18 months ago. We went up there, we planted fruit and vegetables, and they kind of didn't want to deal with us. And now we've reached a point where the local authority are trying to contract with who they say are the landowners. I dispute that. They were given prior notice of intention. They didn't have any objection with our action upon the land, and we took full occupation of that land by cultivation. So that land is now, it belongs to anyone, it's a common. We're hoping on a week on Saturday to get some people like yourself and others down and just introduce them to this land. We understand that this might be a bit difficult for many people to grasp, that we've actually done it. We've actually done it. We've took the land by occupation. Literally, you could say this is a good story for Occupy. They were dealing with the head of it down in London and Westminster and all over the world, of course. We went and dealt with the root of the problem and actually did take, and I've still got this 250,000 square meters. So we're hoping to start construction of an earthship. We've started to plan and have a look at the site where it would be best positioned. We're working into the design stage now and the planning stage. And hopefully for next summer, with the better weather, we will start the construction of that.
So Saturday the 19th, you've got this thing called Dig In, which is inviting anyone to this. Is it like a community project then?
We have had some support from the community, but we've also had a lot of people who were working on the project, what could you say, assaulted in various different manners. All sorts, from social security investigations to people's homes being smashed into, and no charges have ever been brought against anyone. For any of the so-called allegations. We've been threatened with court appearances, and there are even rumours that if we continue to speak about the illegal tipping that's gone on there, and we're talking millions of tons of waste, unknown waste. We don't know. We do know there is some toxic material, low-level toxicity. Nevertheless, still, it shouldn't be there. Asbestos and blue billy. My friend Nigel, as I mentioned, Nigel Rawlins. He's attempting to get on, and so they can cut a section through that, and we can find out what was actually dumped on there. Because at the moment, it is actually unknown. And if we've heard rumours that if we carry on mentioning about this, then contracts will be put out on people. It's like, all right then, you don't scare me. It's a con. It's a massive con. They've grabbed the land. They've allowed it to be used as an illegal tip. Even by their own acts and statutes, Dom, they've even broken them. They really have.
Well, they're the first ones that they make the rules and then they try and make everybody else follow them rather than abiding by them themselves. They're not created the rules to enslave themselves, it's the rest of the population. But it seems like you're doing positive things, looking for solutions, and actually getting out there and doing it. Which
Oh
I
yeah,
applaud.
we have actually done it. Well, we have took a massive, what I consider, I didn't realise it at the time, what a big step it was. I mean, many people have attempted to take land, and as far as we get it, since 1749, and the diggers, and they were the last people to be successful. Of course, they were all murdered.
1649.
Yeah, I think it was 1649, the diggers.
Yeah.
I'll get that info up for you.
So Gerard Winstanley on St George's Hill.
Yes. Hey, you're well informed, aren't you?
Well, that's the funny thing. Of how I found out about the diggers was through a group of people that tried to suppress me talking about common law and solutions within the legal system. And then you look at the diggers' mandate, and they were all about giving the land back to the people because of things like the Land Enclosures Act in the 1600s, which basically was the last huge thing which took land off of people, and people like Gerard Winstanley had enough of it, took a band of men up to the hills with their pitchforks and their rakes, and they started farming, and they were there till the bloody end.
Yeah, well, you can see why we did it on St George's Day. That was 2011. That would have been Saturday, April the 23rd. And now we've been in occupation of that land since then. So yeah, that's since not last, but the year before April. It will be 2 years this April. So we are now a good 21 months. The local authority, which is Tameside Metropolitan Borough, are now attempting to contract with the landowner, so-called landowner, of course. And this land was compulsory purchased. As we understand it, we'd like to get more information, but they keep saying it's confidential. And I don't know if they're aware, but how can it be confidential if they're actually working for us? Isn't that how? I mean, maybe you know more on that than me, but I find that quite difficult to grasp. The BBC approached them, many of the news agencies, and they've all denied all knowledge of it. I mean, they even removed Ashton Allotment waiting list application from their internet site and then tried to deny all knowledge of it. Thankfully, I'd already videoed their site, which was removed 2 days after our action group. The following weekend, after the 23rd, so that would have been the 30th, we went onto the site, and if anybody wants to look at www.bobsbackyard.co.uk/AAA, 3 capital A's, for Ashton Allotment Action. It's not the 3 A's of the Illuminati and the New World Order, okay?
It best not be.
There is a site, a little site we've got there. It's not dead up to date, to be honest. That blog does need to be updated. But that gives an idea of the background of the place. On the second photograph down, you can see behind us, there's a hill. That is the actual tip. That's right behind this place. We have actually, like I say, found stuff on there, on the actual allotment site. The ground is pretty burnt out. It's going to need a lot of work, this place. There's no disputing that. I've never tried to hide that. We have got soft rush all over it. It's difficult to get out. You dig it out. If you don't stay on top of it, it's back. So, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard work. But hopefully, the so-called authority will, I might be dreaming a bit here, but I like to be positive. The so-called authority will realise the error of the ways, recognise the fact that it's going to be a lot cheaper for them to support us fully, and I mean fully, in setting up basically a school of alternative growing of excellence on this site and funding it completely, because that's going to be cheaper than them moving the hill with millions of tons, literally millions of tons of illegal waste. Our idea for that, they're saying it needs to be a golf course. It's ridiculous. That's not going to serve the people at all. We haven't got a shortage of golf courses. You don't get people queuing up to play golf in Manchester. We're far from it. So yeah, our idea for that is to turn it into an orchard. The entire place, the entire hill. We'll put trees on it. We're looking at already taking cuttings from indigenous trees to grow walnuts and hazelnut and so forth on there. So yeah, we're looking at it, man. We need support. We've always needed support. We had a Facebook group with 200 odd people strong, and it's been up to about 300. These things fluctuate. And we were getting a turnout of 25, 30 people, depending on the weather. Over the winter, that's dropped right off. There's not as much to do. Like I say, when it is quite an exposed place. Another reason why we want to build some form of centre or community centre or shelter, you know, somewhere where people could perhaps come and maybe even spend the night. We don't really want to turn it into a hotel or anything like that. But we would like to be able to demonstrate that the working effects of an Earthship, these can be built at very low, about the same cost as a normal building. They're not actually a cheaper construction, but if we can provide the labour, which they are, you know, you need some skills involved, but you need a lot less skill to build an Earthship than you would to lay bricks, for instance.
Because so you have to dig out all the footings and start from afresh with an Earthship, and it is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, we're hoping to get machinery to do that. We're trying to make this realistic. You know, I'll take help from anybody. You know, even if the council, if the Queen and the King, do we have a king? Do you know, if them royal people, I'm not very good at that, but if them people want to come and help out, they're welcome. You know, they're welcome. We make everyone's welcome on that land. As long as you agree, everyone's welcome. You know?
I don't think there's much chance of the royals turning up until the banking collapse, and when they get starving, I think they'll still have their slaves to work for them. There's many blind people out there that will follow blindly.
Well, but I think we have to. If that is the case, if they're going to blindly follow, I don't see myself as a leader. Far from it. But if they're going to blindly follow, then let us lead by example. You know, let us do this. You know, we have done it. I mean, I've met some beautiful people. We really have. And even the National Allotment Association, our local representative, he's flabbergasted. He's flabbergasted at the arrogance and the ignorance of Tameside Council. They really are. And like I say, this isn't just here. They've done this kind of thing all over the country. The difference is here, we've got them with their pants down right now, Dom. Right now, you know, we've got them with the pants down. Whether they're all actually a party to it, do you know, whether all the council has been taking backhanders and money, I don't know that. But if they can continue to keep covering this up, then it's looking more and more damning for them all the time. You know, I mean, we can only take arrogance so far, and then it does become that they are actively trying to destroy and cover up evidence. What I was going to mention is the second week, on the 30th of April, as soon as the action started, they started covering over the hill. You can see in the second photograph behind the people there. They started covering it over with topsoil. I mean, literally, they covered up. Nothing grew on that hill. It was just a grey, barren hill. It was a tip, literally. And then they covered it over with topsoil. And as you can see in the photographs behind now, we have got, there is some green. It's all been grassed, and there's grass growing there now.
So is it classed as a brownfield site?
Is it legally? No, they have no license on it. They have nothing on it at all. There is no license for tipping or for any kind of infill site at all. No licenses were ever applied for. They weren't. So yeah, it's an illegal tip. That's, you know, whatever they tip there, it doesn't matter. They were told it was a backfill site for the motorway. Well, they didn't get Blue Billy. I mean, we know. I mean, we've done our own research. There was skip wagons going in there, low waste being tipped in there, on a regular basis. That was a tip. It was a refuge disposal where skips, basically, from the skip companies were running in and out of there, paying the money and dumping the load.
Well, what I think is great about what you're doing is you're actually getting up and actually doing it rather than sitting there and talking about it all day long. And you're doing a green project and you're not applying for licenses or things like that that fall in line with Agenda 21 policies, because that seriously will be the end of rights to grow things, for example, like unless if you're falling in line with the EU directives and growing all the things under their guidelines, which doesn't mean it'll be healthy for you. In fact, it'll be much the opposite, like monocrop farming and Monsanto, and it's all GM. This stuff is not good for us. Nature is there to provide for us. Therefore, if we can do projects like this outside of the system, then they've got, it's just going to build in strength and strength and strength. I've tried to do land claims myself, tried to start communities, tried to join in communities, but when you start your own, you've got all this weight on your shoulders of a project that's ongoing and all these people that support the project, and you're upholding that. So I do feel for you, the amount of work that has to go into something like this. And I'm going to definitely try to make it up there on Saturday the 19th, is it?
Yeah, don't worry about it too, Dom. Like I say, if there are people like yourself who are travelling a good distance, get up here, let us show you this bit of land. Make it real. That's all. I mean, if you want to come and throw a shovel around, or, you're welcome to. It's not the right time of year to do it. But if somebody wants to get hands on, that's not a problem. But really, this is about us getting people on this land. Let them walk round it. This is a free bit of land. Just get on that land and walk round it and see if you notice what we notice. So, if people can't get, all you've got to do is contact me. I'm Bob's Backyard on Skype, bob@bobsbackyard.co.uk. Contact us through the radio station, darkcity.bobsbackyard.co.uk, or through the Facebook. I've been contacted today for the aquaponics work I've actually done. This is a progression for me from other projects that I've worked on. Now we need to have land. I mean, the social situation we're in Britain at the moment, you don't have to go back too far. Just look at Russia and the economical collapse that took part in Russia not so many years ago. The people of Russia, and I'm not talking about the rich, because they can just fly out of the country and get whatever they need, But the people of Russia actually survived because they have allotment gardening. Social gardening is if you have land and you don't use it to grow on, you're considered to be ignorant and somewhat stupid in Russia. Where here in the West, if you do, you're considered to be some kind of a peasant. This is a lowly thing that's done. And this ideology that we've got away from agriculture, how important that is to actually England as a land. It really is. I want England to be that green and pleasant land. I'm getting a bit sick and tired of them just tearing up good, productive land and concreting it. And to be honest, just creating a massive problem. I mean, they really have. They've removed hundreds of thousands of tons of peat from this area. It used to be some of the best celery growing areas in England. It was renowned for it. They've ripped out all that soil, which works as like a big sponge, soaking up water. And then they carved the motorway through at a lower level, and lo and behold, the first rain comes and it floods the motorway. What are these people being paid to plan? I mean, I could have worked that out on the back of a cigarette packet, if you cut into and remove this, you're going to get flash floods, you're going to get problems, because the water has got nothing to be soaked up into. And then they make a hill, which then actually just contributes to the problem. So the management of this piece of land here is literally, I would expect a couple of 5 or 6 year olds to do better with a couple of crayons, with a couple of spoons. It is completely and absolutely negligent. They've actually asked the government for £16 million because they've lost on this project. Now, bear in mind that this land was making money. Perhaps it wasn't making a lot of money. but the land was being put to use and it was producing produce which could be sold, which does actually support everything within the country, on a small scale. Now they've actually applied for £16 million, well, not now, a while ago, and they were granted £6 million from the government. So they've mismanaged this area, and us, the taxpayers of Britain, and even if you're on social security, don't think you're not paying tax. Take 85% off the price of your food, because that is taxes on the labour and the transportation costs.
Every time you use money, you are taxed.
Yes.
So everything you do in that world of commerce, tax. It's mathematically, there's only one winner, and that's them at the top of the pyramid, as we know.
Yeah, well, I don't play the pyramidal structure, you see. There is no winner or loser in my game. At the end of the game, we all walk off as one team. We at the end of my little game, we all wear the winning team shirts. I'm not looking for retribution. I'm looking for these people to, not even hold their hands up and admit it. As far as I'm concerned, right, yeah, they've had us over. They've ripped us off. Right, let's get on with it. Let's move on. Not interested. And I'll extend that to any single person who's involved with this corruption. I will accept your surrender. I will accept unconditional surrender from you, without any retribution at all. No one will seek any kind of imprisonment. We just want you to stop. That's it. We just want you to stop this persecution. We can move along then. Stop these rings of deceit and abuse of people. Let's just stop it and we can start from there. In my mind, we're living in a world where we're actually openly accepting the abuse of others so we can live in this standard we've become accustomed to. We are contributing through our inaction. That goes to most people. I mean, I'm not placing them under demand. I'm not. I'm making a clear statement. Stop doing what you're doing. Well, there are still people on earth like myself that will accept you for who you are in this moment. And I don't think we will last forever. I think eventually, if they carry on the way they are and we don't bring forth change, because that's what it's about, Dom, us bringing forth change. They don't want any change. They want it to continue. They want the arguments and the debates to be ongoing forever as they move the war from one country to another country. By the time we've found out it was illegal to go there, they've already moved somewhere else. And we need to bring forth those changes. We really do. Like I say, it's not a demand, but we are going down the same route as the economical crash. And at best, capitalism, all it's doing is putting the burden onto our children. I mean, capitalism based upon a tangible currency, on profit or on production, it works fine. But once you base it upon debt, then all of us are working to pay off a never-ending debt. Our children will be in more debt, and our grandchildren will be even in more debt. And now in England, up to 75, I think it was 83% of a two-parent family with two children is actually going back out as tax. So, if they're bringing in £1,000, they're actually losing over 3/4 of it in tax. We're one of the highest taxes countries in the world now. So we've managed, and I have a lot of sympathy for those people who are in that system of having to work to pay for the food, to pay for their housing, and they've no money left at the end of it. They're not getting any further forward, I've run my own businesses, I've worked, I've been in that system, and it's not easy. Once you're in there, it's not easy to get out. But once you have been out of it and you start to realise these things, there is no turning back. There really is no turning back. There isn't.
Yeah, I used to work really hard within the construction industry, and I'd go anywhere in the country just for the work to try and be normal. And that never done me any favours at all. It just got me more into debt, and I find like a normal family would find it hard to survive on whatever wages they get, whether they're earning £200 a week or £2,000 a week, because you'll have rents to pay and all these bills, and doesn't matter what you earn, you seem to spend it all. And then most people in this country, even worldwide, that use money are in debt. Most of the people that we know are in debt, and they're using this money that's created by the crown, which is just their tool of enslavement. So that's why I decided to start doing more about it in the recession. Started looking into law more and solutions and remedy and these freemanisms and all the rest of it. And once you start seeing this and people punting it out as a solution and saying you can do this and you can do that, you can serve a notice of intent and an affidavit and all this, and then you'll be free from their system. So instead of like sitting there and promoting it out as, yes, this is how it is, I thought I'd go out there and try these processes out. Many different processes I've tried until I found something that worked for me. And my process isn't necessarily going to work for you or Praj or anybody else, but it works for me. So I don't say like, go out there and do this, because I wouldn't expect anyone to be able to go out there, not consent to the system in such a hardcore fashion the way I do, or even Prajna. I know I've seen him, well, I'll let him introduce himself when he comes on the show, but these are real people that have gone out there and they're doing stuff from the heart because they're sick of the system that much that they feel like they need to do something for future generations. Because I've lost everything in my life, from home, car, my child isn't in my life, and that's partly through what I do now, and it's partly through trying to be normal, going to get a job, going to do a full-time job, and it just took me further and further away from her and what I wanted to be. And I didn't, even though I'm really good on a construction site and I know what I'm doing, done it for years. That's why if you get a dig up on your site in Ashton, let me know and I'll be there within 24 hours and I'll fly that digger around like nobody else you've ever seen before. I used to grade for tarmac and even archaeology in a digger. So I know exactly what I'm doing in a bit of machinery too. But what happened was I was, once the recession sort of was coming back out, I was started to get involved with Kew Bridge Eco Village, which when I first went there, I saw it as like an activist training camp where loads of activists met up in one little area in London and they were camping, they were living, they were using recycled materials, like the Wombles almost, just going around scavenging what's been thrown away and using it to build a sustainable community off of recyclable goods, or even half the stuff wasn't recyclable, but they reclaimed it and used it as it should be used or could be used. But the more I got into this and the deeper down the rabbit hole I went, you start to find out how deeply infiltrated movements are, truth movements, protests, Kew Bridge communities get infiltrated. Have a look at Mark Kennedy, who was the famous undercover cop who was 7 years undercover, and he got exposed. And he said there's so many more people that are undercover in these scenes that like you just really wouldn't believe it. Even Annie Machon, who's an ex-MI5 whistleblower, who used to date David Shayler, who's another MI5 whistleblower. And she says that 1 in 4 protesters are undercover agents. So that's a very high percentage. When you're looking around a community of 30 to 40 people, then like you're looking at 1 in 4. So let's say 40 people, you've got 10 people there on the camp, may well be government agents. So even if you labelled 4 of them and said, well, I think these people are questionable, and then you start putting the questions to them, then people do act like a group, especially if they are working for the government, and they will try and discredit you from many, many angles. And even one guy that was running Kew Bridge Eco Village, Gareth Newnham, He's still at it today with me, trying to like post my pictures about online and find stuff out about me. Well, crack on, because energy goes where energy flows, and I don't want to put any energy their way. But sometimes I get sucked into arguments, like anyone can. And one of the main things was like with what I do is getting infiltrated myself. I don't claim to be part of a group or follow a group or anything like that. Like Occupy, I went down to Occupy to expose it being a government setup. And when people were saying, how long have you been involved with Occupy? I was never involved in Occupy, but I was there nearly every day for 6 months trying to put my truth across and exposing people with facts and pointing people out and who they work for, i.e. Common Purpose and the Tavistock Institute, BBC, Sky News. All of this stuff was coming out. Every rock of Occupy that I overturned, there was some sludge underneath it that could be exposed. So that's what took me like along this path. And then you guys got in contact with me the other day, asked if I knew anyone that wanted to host shows and be guest on shows. And I basically didn't even really look at the message too much. I was just my own morals, and I was stuck up for another radio station, thought I'd go on there as a host. But it seems like they're all falling apart, and they're getting desperate for guests that they have to put on like the world's most famous trolls. So if that's what they want to do, then like, I thought, okay, I'm going to give you guys Dark City, you call it Revolution Radio, I think I'll call it our Evolution Radio, because a revolution, I never want to see another revolution again.
It's not Revolution Radio. The reason why that's there is when the Dark City was a show, Dom. We did a radio show, first on CMR, and then on Revolution Radio in the US. Well, it's worldwide internet, but it's based in the USA, which is the largest independent chat radio out there. So yeah, we slowly but surely, and you'll see things slowly change. We've always thought it was evolution. The R has been pulled off. It's not actually Dark City. It's the Ark City. So yeah, you keep your eye on the graphics on the website. There are cartoons, and they tend to move around a bit, and they tend to do things when you're not quite aware of them. So yeah, it isn't Revolution. It was our little bit of a joke to Revolution Radio, and we've got some real good friends over there still, don't get me wrong. And I suppose without them, we wouldn't be here where we are today, so a big thanks to them. But it was our little bit of a joke, you see. We started pulling the letters off things, and we actually turned Revolution Radio into Evolution Radio. But as we've already mentioned, Dom, that takes change, and many people are a bit fearful of change. So we built this, and once we built it, what are we going to do? We actually built it so they would have a B channel, you could say, another alternative, which was free, and we were seen as a threat, I think. I'm not really sure what happened. We got accused of some crazy stuff, and we just decided to back off further, and the more we backed off, the more upset they seemed to get. And then, like you say, the floodgate opened, and people started talking to people about what we'd done, what we built. They'd seen the website. It was there. It's free. We are not running this. This isn't my radio site. It's not, although me and Robo Hippie and a few others have put it together. A guy, Bosto, he's helped us out loads. He does some artwork for the Anon movement. He's not a hacker. Don't get scared. People aren't going to hack your machines or anything.
Are there anyone in Anonymous that is actually a hacker, or are they all just following blindly behind their masks?
No, man. Most of the people who are really working within Anonymous know that you don't have to be a hacker to bring down these sites. They're basically the majority of people who exercise their minds. So yeah, the Anon Net, which is an IRC platform for chat, and they provided us with chat free of charge, no problem. And it wasn't that. You can get it free anywhere. The actual support they've shown us, the technical support, in putting the site together, getting the RSS streams up. And there's a lot of work to be done before Dark City goes out live. Fully, we will launch it. But this is working really well. Dom, I'd just like you to let you know that you have now smashed all the listener viewers. I'll give you the monthly estimates if you like now, just as the BBC do. And it will take me a minute to...
Yeah, so like, whilst you're looking that up, you guys like introduced yourselves to me, and it was synchronicity because the guys from Truth Juice, Bristol, wanted to host a show, and that's how I put you in contact with Balloonhead, who's been playing his style of reggae all day and a bit of drum and bass and some really wicked tunes. So I had a look and thought, oh, this is a new layout. It looks all new and fresh. I think I'm going to give you guys a go. I don't know who any of you are. That's quite the beauty of it. And the way I'm seeing it and the resonance I'm getting off it, it feels really good. You've got a good crew of people around you and people that seem to know what their own skills are, and that's what they're doing. They're using them, which is making the group mentality that I see here, like there's so many good comments in the chat room alone, and it's no arguments, which is shocking. Like on these truther scenes and things like that, you can say your opinion and just get attacked just for having an opinion. But it still won't ever stop me speaking my truth and doing exactly what I do all the time, because I've been doing this for some time now. I don't think anything's going to stop me. I can't go back into that system. I've recognised the corruption. I recognise the control. I know that I cannot bring that down. This is thousands of years of manipulation and corruption that has enslaved humanity for thousands of years. I can't do that alone, but I can recognise it, and then I can choose to not comply to it and step away from it as much as I possibly can, which, with myself, I own nothing, I've lost everything, therefore this system cannot take anything from me anymore. And what's their biggest threat? Put me in prison? Okay, then I'll have a very captive audience, like last time.
Definitely, that happened with Roger Ayres, didn't it? They gave him 21 days, and how many people got educated by Roger Ayres while he was locked in a prison cell?
Well, they gave me 14 days and said, right, you're serving the full 14, no days off, nothing like that, blah, 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 blah. They gave me the date to get out. 4 days into the sentence, they've come to my cell, opened the cell door and said, get your stuff, you're getting out. And I was like, no, I'm having a lie in. And he said, no, you're getting your stuff and get out. So I went down to see the governor, and the governor said, right, sign this and you can go. And I was like, well, what happens if I don't sign it? And he says, well, you'll go back to your cell. I said, well, it's going to be a very long weekend for you guys then, isn't it? And he just screamed at the top of his voice, get out. And that was me kicked out of Wandsworth Prison. So as long as you've got no fear of this system and you know how the rules are there just to control you, then you can choose not to comply to these rules and learn how to play the game to find your own path of freedom, rather than looking at all these gurus, as they're seen to be, that are handing information out. Now, this information might work really well, like the Dean Clifford approach might work really well for Dean Clifford, but if you're not Dean Clifford, it might not work for you. Rob Menard, he says that his process of the notices of intent and the affidavits and the claims of right, well, that might work for him, but we know that hundreds and hundreds of people have tried that in England, and a huge percentage, like at least over 90% of people that have tried this out with the Freemanisms have failed, and they have things taken off of them, they have their cars taken off of them, they have their children taken off them, they have their homes, children, everything that they think that they might own, but they don't, because this game of ownership is created by the bankers. They create the rules, so therefore when you claim to own anything, they will take it from you and make your life hell. And that's what made me a little bit sick about it and pushed myself to this sort of a limit where I just don't give a fluff anymore. I'll just carry on being me. That's the only thing I can be. And people seem to support what I do all around the country from the moment that I started doing land claims and things like that, and realised that if you're doing a land claim and you've got court cases and you've got things going on, well, there's not many people that have done land claims and done a success. So people within the system are the ones that are making money out of you trying to bring the system down. So that's why I started to realise there's no point trying to bring that system down. Just recognise the corruption and choose your own path.
Totally agree with you, man. Let's say the technique we've used here, you could probably roll it out across the country. But regardless of that, they'll play the game of time. They'll try and beat you down. I mean, disallotments have been going on like almost 15 years now, since they should have put them in, and they were left for at least 8 years with nothing done to them. They've spent all that money on putting out a site, putting the roads in, the infrastructure, and then just left it. And I was, of course, they're going to lose money. You know, of course they're going to. That land needs more money spending on it than it did originally. Now, it's just really poor management. It really is. Like I say, hopefully we can get a few heads down here. We can get a bit of support. We can get people using their techniques. I'll use them all. I'll invite them all to have a go. Let's give them an onslaught. Literally, we're going to organise a camp for the summer. We'll have a summer camp down there. We're going to try and get organised in the for this digging on the 19th. And like I say, if people can't make that, contact us, get in touch with us. Somebody already has just asked to become a member of Bob's Backyard Hydroponics on Facebook. We've never used that. That I'm Bob's Backyard on Skype. Excuse me. And the Facebook group is D-Arc City Radio. You can get on Facebook. So, yeah, but it's happening. I was saying, the far as you just touched, you ready for this, Dom? 61,920 average viewers for your show.
What?
61,920 average viewers for your show. If we hold this now, which actually antiquates to 43 people.
All right, yeah.
Now, bear in mind, hang on a minute, Dom. That is, I'm not cooking the figures. Those are how the figures are worked out.
Yeah.
If this station stays as it is, we don't get any bigger. Yours is the biggest show we ever have. We've done it. We've got 43 people listening to us. Okay, I've already had a response back saying that they were listening to the radio while they were browsing Facebook. Okay, I've had that while you've been on air.
Many thanks to all the listeners, because you are the guys that are out there listening to this information. A lot of you are going out and trying it out. I know, I recognise some of the names that are in the chat room. I've met a few people from the chat room, like Tommy and Treeman. And there's a lot of good, honourable people that are doing stuff from the heart, and I applaud all of you, because this, if we're going to find solutions in the world, we have to discuss things. We have to find out the rights and the wrongs. And much like myself, I take it on the chin, because when I go out there and I speak my truth, and a lot of it is factual and backed up by proof, then like you're bursting people's bubbles. Like the first week down at Occupy London St Paul's, you got tens of thousands of people there, all following this movement that's against the banking system. And I was like, yeah, great, if it is truly against the banking system, but I'm telling people, well, this seems to be nothing more than a government set up protest with funding from the elites like George Soros, and the involvement from the likes of Saskia Kent, who's a common purpose graduate, and the Tavistock Institute were there from week one, which are the world's leading psychotherapists, and they do social engineering on a mass scale. The people that are involved with Tavistock are people like Edward Bernays. So Google Edward Bernays. He wrote a book called Propaganda, How to Manipulate Both Sides of the War. This is what they do. They get in there, they don't care who wins a war. They control both sides, and then both sides have to pay them back with interest. So they're on a win-win-win situation, and they don't care about anyone else but themselves, and that will be the banking families.
Can I just give you something else? I've got a good mate of mine. I've never actually met the guy, and we don't live that far apart. He goes under the False Idol over in Paltalk. They're actually streaming our radio station, because it's ours, doesn't belong to anybody. And they're streaming it into Paltalk, and there's another 13 people sat in that room listening to your show now, Dom. So, you know, we are actually being picked up and streamed out. And thanks for that, Fatal Attraction. He's a good guy. He's helped to loads on a lot of stuff we've done. So, yeah, mate.
I'd like to say a big hello to anybody from the GCHQ or any government agents that are listening in. And we love you.
And I've got your IP address.
Have you really?
Everybody's.
Have you got mine? Can you see mine?
I've got everybody. I can't tell who's whose. You just see an IP connect up, and it just shows you how many's there.
Well, I might have to start using a Tor browser then.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It gives you a connection. Some of them it just gets a question mark. You know, just gives us an idea of. I really want to know the real people. You see, I'm not interested in. But I tell you what, RoboHippie keeps connecting to the. He keeps looking as well. So if Robo, you put the numbers in, so I don't have to keep knocking you off, and then you don't keep knocking me off.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before we get Prajna on,
I want Dom. Can I sit back for a bit? Because I really want to hear your two guests. I'm here, you know, and I really want to hear their story. I did touch on it a while ago. I was enthralled with it. Again, it's one of them, sometimes there's that much going on, you stretch, you can't make it all. I had a hell of a lot going on in my life, but I did cover their story. I watched it, and I want to hear it, man. I really want to hear your guest speak.
Okay, yep. So we've got Prajna and Kali on tonight, friends of mine through what we do. And I actually think they're really nice people. I've known Kazz a bit longer than Praj. But Praj, he speaks his truth in volumes. And he's very, very intelligent with it. And he can put it into layman's terms. So it's not like he's reading off the book. He's putting it in his own words. And also lined up for guests over the next few weeks, John Witterick from Get Out of Debt Free. Is definitely coming on. I might even be able to get him on tomorrow's show if there's a free slot. I also got Ian Crane, who said he'll come on. Santos Bonacci. We've got a lot of people that are willing to come on to this show, so I think it's going to take off in phenomenal fashion. But before we get Praj on, is there any way of playing a tune before we get him on, so that gives me a chance to sneak out and nobody will know that I've gone to get a roll up?
Well, we'll give you authority to smoke in your house if you like, Dom. That's all right. Have you got anything particular you want? Shall I just take something at random from Balloonhead's tracks? Shall I just take something from there, or
feel free to be free?
Feel free to be free. Well, I'll have to play I'm Too Sexy because I grow it. But we haven't quite edited that one up fully yet. So yeah, I'll play a little bit of it's a bit of reggae stuff. This is kind of it's a guy called Albert Clark, and I've got a couple of tracks here I can play. I'll give you about 6 minutes if we let a couple run. Just let us know, man. Get yourself a wee and have a wee and stuff like that, and do what you need to do. So
after the break, we'll have the great Prajna and Kali.
Picked up the pieces to find your increases. Good over evil is our evidence. In this world, it's dread. Your seal is a sign. In the morning we shall rise. Through the sun of gold, for the blue, Mother Nature green. The night is the shadows of the day. make another day is rising. We are shall rise, ooh yeah, shall rise. We are shall rise, ooh yeah, shall rise. Knowledge is our refreshment, it plays of creation. Of what we do burns deep at the sheep at last to be found. We are shall rise, ooh yeah, shall rise. We are shall rise, ooh yeah, shall rise. Shall rise, ooh yeah, shall rise. We are shall rise, ooh yeah, shall rise. Pick up the pieces to find your increases. Good over evil is our evidence. In this world, it's dread. Your seal is a sign. In the morning, we shall rise. We shall rise. Ooh yeah, shall rise. We shall rise. Ooh yeah, shall rise. We are shall rise. Ooh yeah, shall rise. We are shall rise. Ooh yeah, shall rise. We are shall rise, 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 ooh yeah.
That's our good friend we haven't seen for a while. If you are out there, Albert, get in touch, man. So, Dom, are you back with us?
Yeah.
Right, cool. I just want to let you know, Dom, just before you start with your guests, you're getting quite a lot of activity on Facebook. People are saying you're doing really well. It's brilliant. First show. Just let people know we are still filling up the schedule. If you do want a show, let us know. The station is not fully live yet. We're still testing it out. It looks like we've started, Dom. It looks like you've done it. But you can't have a show tomorrow, Dom, because you haven't booked it on the schedule. Now, you know how well, there you go. You have to get on with Jim. If you are out there having a bit of fun with Dom there, of course, if we've got an empty slot and you've got something to say, 24/7, we'll get on, we'll sort it, we'll get you on the air, whoever you are. That's what it's about. But ideally, if we can give people a little bit of notice like we did today, we only kind of announced this morning, and yeah, it's worked, Dom. So fair play to you, man. I saw you out there, putting it out on the network. If anyone does want to get on, you do want airtime, let us know. When we launch live, we won't be putting anybody else in for 30 days. Okay, we're going to do it like that so we don't get legged up. It's that simple. We want to have a good, strong foundation here for people like yourself, Dom, and your guests.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I do believe they're all waiting on you, Dom.
Okay, Prajna, let's have a level check. Are you there?
Yeah, sure we are.
Hello.
Hello, Prajna. Hello, Kali. Okay, where do we start? We may as well start with something simple like, what got you into this lawful rebellion information, and who are you, and explain a bit about yourselves.
Well, I'm not sure that we're really lawful rebels, you know, and I'm not sure that we're really freemen, and I'm not sure that we're really any of these names that they go dishing about. What got me into it was that I discovered all kinds of people like Gandhi and Thoreau and all these people, and I ran into a wonderful character in India. And these people changed the way that I looked at the world. You know, there was a time when I was an officer in the Royal Engineers, and the reason that I joined the army was because I thought that we were supposed to be the good guys, and the Russians, and at that time the Argentinians, were the bad guys. And it wasn't until long after I left the army that I discovered that actually we've been a bunch of something or other for about as long as history can relate. And I still want to be a good guy. You know, we were taught as kids that you were supposed to be good and honest and all these things, and yet our parents are lying all the time. The very people who are teaching us all this stuff, it was all lies.
Yeah.
And eventually
starts with Santa Claus.
Say again?
It starts with Santa Claus, the lie of Christmas.
It does start with Santa Claus. Do you know, Carly's niece today, her tiny little niece, prayed to Santa.
Oh, my tiny little 18-year-old.
No, Tia.
Oh, it was Tia, was it?
Yeah,
oh,
prayed to Santa today. And I said, oh, that's cool. I said, before long you'll have her believing any kind of shit in the world, you know. And this is the way that it all works, is that we're fed lies. We're taught that lies are common currency as children. And at the same time, we're taught that it's right to be honest and all this kind of thing. And so, of course, everybody's confused. And I decided that the only way to challenge this was to do what Gandhi did. Gandhi said that civil disobedience becomes a sacred duty when the state is lawless and corrupt, and that anyone bargaining with such a state shares in their lawlessness and corruption. He said there's one sovereign remedy, and that's non-violent, non-cooperation. Yeah. So I decided that the way I was going to not cooperate was I was going to buy myself a camper van, a motorhome, and I was going to make that my home, because then, you see, I'm protected by Magna Carta, and I'm protected by human rights, and I'm protected by all these things. I can't just come along and take my home away because I refused to pay tax. And I did refuse. For 4 years, I had no tax disc. Well, I had one, ran out November 2009. And I drove happily around the country for 3.5, 4 years with no tax. And that, you know, I was taxed actually, because every now and again I'd get stopped by a cop and I'd have to chat to them and I'd tell them the way the world works or the way the world doesn't work or whatever, and they'd hand me a little bit of paper. And then we go on our way. But then just last year we happened to be wandering merrily back from a festival, Sunrise Festival last year, and we were travelling along the M53, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're on the M53.
And this copper flags us off. Well, if I'd known first of all that he wasn't entitled to flag us off the motorway because he wasn't what they call a black rat. He wasn't Highways Agency, and therefore he's got no right to flag anyone off a motorway. If I'd known that, I would have carried on driving. But anyway, we pulled off, and they took our home away because we wouldn't pay tax. They told us, actually, they told us that it was for a VOSA inspection because it didn't have an MOT. But in fact, VOSA never inspected it. They never gave us any PG9 or followed any of their rules, so they've taken it entirely unlawfully. And they can't, in any case, take a van off the road because you don't pay tax. Now, we knew right at the beginning that this was all possible for this to happen. Before I set out on any of this path, and you were talking earlier, Dom, saying that you can't say that everybody should do it this way or should do it that way or should do it another way. You know, you have to realize what we've put into this. The first thing that I did before I set out on this journey was I got rid of everything that I couldn't bear to lose.
Yeah.
When I have nothing, then there's nothing that they can take away from me. And so that's how I set out, knowing that there was every possibility that these crooks and thugs and thieves that they are would come along and do precisely what they did. And that's what they did. So what do? well, we didn't fight them. There's no point in fighting anyone. All you get is a fight then. We're after peace. Instead, we just set up camp in their backyard, actually front yard, right at the front of the recovery company, and we stayed there for 3 months. And we cost them thousands. We cost the police thousands. We cost the council thousands. We cost the DVLA, probably some people their jobs as well. And the recovery company as well. I mean, he was threatening to close the place down and blame it on us. So we're having a certain amount of success. And that's before...
Embarrassment value alone was top-notch.
And that's before we even get our teeth into prosecuting them for all of this stuff, because we sure are going to do that too.
Well, I think with what you was doing there was something off your own back, by yourself, not part of a group. And people came along, they supported. Other people that lived locally were driving past, seeing the tent encampment being set up along the side of Autolift and wondering what you was doing there and what you was protesting against, if you was protesting at all. And I saw many...
As they go past them. Even though we're not there, people still beat as they go past.
Well, we got to speak to hundreds and hundreds of people about what we're about and why we live the way that we live. And it was a massive opportunity.
And all those interactions with the police and the authorities, all of those have been taped or filmed as well, or a great number of them have. You know, and we will get to editing together, you know, cleaning up some of the traffic noise and stuff from that, and putting all that up so people can hear the kind of interactions that we had.
Yeah.
It's like I met some great people at your camp there, and I watched you talking to many people, and you planted a lot of seeds in people's heads from that, and you've done really well, in my opinion, my honest opinion. I thought that is something that's actually doing something that's got some kind of effect on that corrupt system.
Well, you know, Don, we never quite know what effect we have, and rather than looking for an effect, all we should do is do the right thing in the moment. That's all it takes, because all the future comes out of this moment. We don't have to worry about what the future will contain as long as we've done the best that we can in this particular moment, and that might be saying a wise word or two to someone, or it could be anything. As long as we're present in this moment, then we get to choose to do the right thing, and that's what determines the outcome in the end. It's not that we have to have an outcome in mind, because we never do know what the outcome is going to be. That's the big mistake everyone's always made, is to think that any decision they've made has actually caused a particular outcome. The universe causes whatever outcome it's got in mind, regardless of what you've got planned.
Yeah. We are just part of that pattern, is what the way I see it.
Say again, Dom?
We are just part of that pattern. So, as Bill Hicks says, it's just a ride. So you may as well enjoy the ride.
Now, when you recognise this thing, you can relax and you can actually be happy in the moment, knowing that the universe has got it under control as it always has done. Anything that always was so, always will be so. That's my experience.
Yeah, and it's just many moments of now. And as you were saying, I totally agree with you again. It's if you act honourably and honest in the now, then like nothing really can affect you when it does, because with what you're doing against the corrupt system, you're going to get attacked, and I've seen that you've had personal attacks on your life, same as I have, and it's not nice when you have to deal with these things. And have you got any advice, like, for people that may get attacked?
This is actually rolls into karma, which is quite an interesting lesson in itself, and that is that whatever you receive from the world, you can either put that back out into the world, and that's what tends to happen when we take revenge and all that kind of thing. When we want to get back at someone for what they've done, is we're just spreading that karma around. When you accept whatever happens to you, happens to you. Gandhi talked about this thing called satyagraha.
What's that? Say it again.
Satyagraha, which was his form of protest. He said, basically, I wouldn't kill anyone for anything, but I would die for a lot of things. And this is what you're doing, is actually you're exposing yourself. You're being vulnerable to the system. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable place in front of the system and standing there just in your truth. Now, you are going to take some hassle, but the thing is to turn all of that hassle into something good. That's what we did in Chester. You know, the liaison officer who used to come and see us every couple of days. You know, by
this
the
is the traveller liaison.
This was our PC Dave. Fabulous guy. You know, he came along all officious from the beginning, and by the end he could see actually the good things that we were doing for the community, and he refused to take part in the eviction.
Yeah, well, I thought Dave was a wonderful cop.
Well, yeah, still common purpose, you know, and he admitted this to us. He said that all recruits to the police these days are common purpose trained.
Oh.
Yeah, I think there must be some basic entry-level training that they all get.
And you know, it's quite recognisable because these people who chat to you like anyone you'd have a pint with in the pub, you know, they're as nice as pie, but whenever you mention anything that requires empathy or compassion, it just seems to go straight through one ear and out the other without having any effect at all. Have you seen that?
What with the police? Not what do you mean? Not having any effect on the police?
When you talk about something that requires their compassion, when it's just something that requires their intellectual interest, you know, then they're pally and chatty as anybody else. But when you mention something that actually touches hearts, it doesn't seem to touch their heart at all. Have you noticed?
Yeah, and I think that is down to their programming. And what I mean by programming is the training that they go through. That this is like done by people that are NLP experts and high in common purpose and things like that. People that know how to manipulate and successfully and in program people to carry out duties that is, it's not human to do it. It's like, well, when I went down,
it's just their ignorance, really, because you know, I can understand where their heads are at. As I said to you, I used to be an officer in the Royal Engineers. You know, I had such a confined understanding of the world that actually that seemed to me like a good thing to do.
See, and that's another thing, Praj. You've never hidden the fact that you're ex-army, and that's probably part of your awakening. It's like I've got a family that I would consider to be quite damn awake. I've got a brother that's closest in age to me, who used to go around primary school telling people about New World Order and Illuminati and things like that. So this brother, he ended up on his birthday, which is September the 12th. He woke up on his birthday, September the 12th, 2001, and all the newspapers saying it's war. And he must have seen that as some kind of a sign to join the army. And he joined the bloody army. It's like, well, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Oh, well, it's a bit of a showstopper. You do. This is the thing. We all work from our understanding of the world, but our understanding of the world has been formed by the same people who taught us about Father Christmas.
Yeah.
We've been thoroughly manipulated right throughout our history. Well, throughout the past couple of 100 years, and the past 100 years or so, whenever televisions came into our living rooms, we've been thoroughly programmed and manipulated. Our emotions have been manipulated, and we're even told what to think.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you know, Dom?
And what to think about.
Yeah, I said earlier that I've lost it.
We knew that some time ago, Praj.
A long time ago.
Yeah, so like the thing is, it's you can watch people on their own awakenings. I've had a good mate that I've known for over 20 years. I went to live with him. This must have been about 5-6 years ago now, and I was trying to wake him up to all this information, passing it all over to him, showing him all the documentaries that most of us have seen. I don't even agree with most of these documentaries 100%. In fact, probably hardly any of them. But things like Zeitgeist and the Venus Project and Kamataka and everything that I could possibly do to try and help wake him up. And I think that term, waking someone up, it's perfect, because who likes to be woken up?
Well, just so...
That's true. Nice and comfy in our slumber.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say earlier was about the Freeman thing, you know, and I don't think the Freeman thing is all bad, because the first thing that you learn when you come into the Freeman philosophy is that you are not your name. And once you've discovered that you are not your name, although that takes quite a long time for people to understand the full meaning of that, but when you discover you're not your name, then you have to ask the obvious question.
Who are you? What are you?
Then who am I?
Yeah.
Well,
And who am I is the question that leads people to enlightenment. And it's not just changing the system that we need. What needs to happen is that we all need to become enlightened, because otherwise, no matter what new system we bring in, we're going to corrupt and destroy it from our own egos. That's precisely what's going to happen, unless, you know, waking up, there are different levels of waking up. The first level of waking up is finding out just how shit everything is, just how much the wool has been pulled over your eyes, and the first thing that happens is everyone gets angry. Even I got angry.
Me too.
I went out and protested all kinds of things. But that's, you know, if we react then from that anger, then you always get the fruit depending on what seed you're growing from. And if we're growing from anger, then no matter what we do, even if it's the right thing and the smartest thing in the situation, if we're doing it from anger, then the results from that will always turn out to contain more of that same energy. So the first thing we have to do is get over our anger and learn anger gets transformed into compassion. This is what happens with anger. When you allow the anger to be there without spreading it back out into the world, then it reverses itself and it turns into compassion. And when we start to act from compassion, then even if we do the wrong thing, good comes of it.
Yeah. Have you not experienced that feeling, Don, where you're so angry and so frustrated and, oh, fucking hell, nothing makes any sense, and it's all evil and corrupt and putrid, and you just, if you sit with that, it does become compassion. It becomes this feeling of care, but you just want to make a difference, love it better.
I get you fully, because it's like, I don't do what I do for a monetary gain. I don't do it for a business reason. I don't do it because I'm part of the system and I'm trying to dupe people. I'm just a normal guy that is sick of the system, like many other people in the world. And I've known that we've had a corrupt system for most of my life, but I've not been looking into the solutions to it. Whether that will be the legal solutions, learn the rules of the game. Whether it be the health solutions, you don't have to use the NHS and their pharmaceuticals that keep you sick to make them billions. You can go and learn things about herbs and how to make tinctures and how to cure yourself rather than treat the symptoms.
Someone mentioned the tree man's listening. He's in the chat room.
Yeah, Hawthorne.
Yeah, Hawthorne tea tree man. Tastes nice as well.
Tree man, as in tree man we both know?
Yeah. Well,
yeah. I said hello to him in the chat room earlier. Hopefully he's still there. Yeah. Another bloke that does what he can do. And when I met Tree Man, he was basically delivering ash, untreated ash logs up to a community up on the Pennines for everyone to use. And he was coming and put his time in. And all I've ever seen him do is try and do things for the good. And when you're doing what actually does my head in a little bit is I'm doing all this stuff and I'm doing it in my opinion, I'm doing it for the benefit of humanity. I'm not doing it for selfish reasons or anything else. And then you'll get proper mega super trolls out there that will attack you and attack you and attack you. Like from Occupy, I've never witnessed anything like it. since exposing that as being a government setup, everything from then has just escalated. The trolls in my life.
Trolls have come following you, Dom.
Look what happened when I had to go to Bada the other day.
At who?
Bada Bing.
Super troll.
Oh, right, yeah, Bada Bing the super troll. He's like unreal. Yeah, master troll. Yeah, I like that in the chat room.
Bada, 'cause he's really bad at it.
Now, this is really interesting stuff, and I've got to take the rough with the smooth because I just roll with it and see where it takes me. With something like that, what happened was, at that point in my life, a woman had put up my bail address because I got arrested down Occupy after I got strangled by an ex-copper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only statements they would take would be word for word, exactly the same as this ex-copper. They weren't taking statements off witnesses that were there. The witnesses that did, one of them happens to work for the police, and this guy who's an ex-copper, it's like, hang on a minute, you two are like word for word on your statements. When I looked at the CCTV, she's not even looking at the incident, so how she can do it word for word with him is another matter. So from that was when I was exposing that the money was all going to Climate Camp, all the donation money from Occupy. And it was that night, it just went off where I got strangled, arrested, and then I got taken away for 3 days. I got released on the 11th of the 11th of the 11th, and a woman was in the courtroom who only met me a couple of times down Occupy. And she wanted to put up my bail address, even though there was a couple of mates that I've known for a while there that wanted to put up the bail address. Me being me, single bloke, very good-looking woman, putting up my bail address. I'll roll with it and see where this one goes. Anyway, it transpires that this woman happens to have an ex-partner who's second in command of GCHQ.
Yeah.
And she started me arguing with him. And it's like, well, cheers for that. That's the last thing I needed, is the second in command of the counter-terrorism spy branch is now arguing with me. Thanks a lot. Also found out that she's got an ex-partner who she's got a son by that owns half of Malta. Her 3 kids go to a City of London school outside of London where they all swear an oath to go into the school. It's like some big Freemason school. It's hideous. Then I'll also find out that she's trained by the Tavistock Clinic, which the Tavistock Institute branched off from the clinic. So she's got all these skills and she knows about psychotherapy and how to deal with mind issues and things like that. Anyway, I've gone round her house and... Pardon?
Did she make you all better?
Did she make me all better?
Yeah.
No, in fact, she gave me some right weird situations that I had to learn to deal with, and I just wanted to get away from it as soon as possible. But how Bing got in contact with me, I put up on Facebook, because I wanted to put this information out, can anybody lend me a laptop for a couple of days? He got in contact with me and said, I'll buy you a laptop. He said he'll give £110. He gave it to Bryony, and then Bryony gave it to me to get a laptop. And then I felt indebted to him, so I've gone round his house where, we'd get stoned and everything and have a chat. But what he was doing was attacking all my mates around me, except a select couple. And I was like, this is odd. But all my mates are saying, oh, you should be having a word with your mate. He's not really my mate. You know what I mean? I've known him through doing this, and he's doing this. I can't help what he does. And then I was like, I had to step back to him and say, look, what you're doing now is attacking people with absolutely no evidence. You're taking things out of context, twisting things, manipulating, and spreading it across loads of forums. Some of it, I think he might be right with some of the information, but it's not information that's not already out there in the truther circles and everything, but it's the way he goes about it. He's causing people to split up, argue, and also even at your camp, and this was all around that Occupy time, when I came to your camp, I met up with a woman up there who was, I was just so glad to get away with that from that one. That was just a really weird situation, and obviously you've got a guy from your camp as well who tried saying to me, Dom, you're getting attacked online. You've got to sort it out. You've got to do this. And I was like, no.
Well, I'm beginning to think that the guy you're talking about right now might be completely in league with Badder, because he actually...
They want to put that energy that way. Go and do it. Go and do it. Go and do your troll behaviour. You know what I mean? Go and Photoshop things. Go and use pictures of my daughter. You sick fuck. You know what I mean? Thing is, God help him if anyone... If I recognise him... Well, I do recognise him. But if I see him, who knows? You know what I mean? The guy's been attacking myself. He's been attacking my daughter. I'm a peaceful man.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? I've got history myself for violence. I've been to prison for violence. So, like, I wouldn't want to do that again. I've got to the point of I can calm myself. I can stand there when I'm being strangled and look the brother in the eye and think you would do this to your brother.
I've been to prison for telling a judge to fuck off.
That's not a very good choice of spells that you used in that courtroom that day.
His minions hadn't been very kind to me.
Well, I don't think I've ever been to prison, because like what I used to do when I got arrested years ago, I used to play the game. The first time I got arrested, I tried a process. I was only 8 years old. I was a little bit naive, so I tried a process that's called praying,
Right.
and it didn't work. My mum still gave me a clout, and I think that process probably worked a little bit better.
Yeah.
I just
More direct, anyway.
yeah, so I was a bit of a chav, a wide boy, whatever you want to call it. Grew up basically streetwise, teaching myself how to live in the real world as such. And when I got arrested, I would basically, it got to the point of where I had so many arrests on my record that basically I would have to, let's say it was even just an eighth of weed or half ounce of weed or whatever. It was, I would go and get drug counselling for cannabis. I would go and get a job. I would go and get training. I would go and get other types of counselling. By the time it gets to court, they look at you and go, well, look, he works, he'll be able to pay a fine, he does this, he does that, he's actually trying harder since he's been arrested. And what I used to always get was community service, probation, and a fine. And used to like... It's much like the Roman army. If you're doing anything outside of their rules, then like they'll fine you and tax you. That's what it's all about. It's just business at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just to control people. It's not about the money or anything. It's about controlling people and keeping us in our place. Because while there's some bod out there that has some spurious or supposed authority over us, you know, that bigs them up. That makes them feel better about their own existence.
It's all about.
So, like, what I started learning, and this touches on to what you were saying earlier, is finding out that you are not a name. And at first, that might sound a little bit daft. What do you mean I'm not a name? Well, people will say, well, what's your real name? And then if
there's no such thing as a real name. A name is not real just by its very nature. It cannot be real.
Yeah, it's not a tangible thing to be real. And then, like, if you've got... Kali is that could be a nickname, like, and it's programming. This is social engineering on many levels. So you've got a nickname and a real name. So you're programmed to think that this name is real. It's yours. It's really yours. And then your nickname, like you've stolen it. So you can't use that. You have to have a real name. And then I look at it like, well. Do you have any proof that I should have such a thing as a name?
Yeah, I love that.
And that's worked so well.
It stops them dead in their tracks.
I had a ball with that. You know, if anyone gets stopped in Cheshire by a traffic cop.
Called Callan.
Ask him, see if he's called Callan. If he is called Callan, and he asks you what your name is, just say, do you have any evidence that I have such a thing? And you'll see his eyes glaze over. And that'll be the end of the thing.
Yeah, we had Callan twice with that. Completely befuddled the man. Didn't have a clue.
I asked him, I asked them 5 times, do you have any evidence that I have such a thing? And after the 5th time, he said, I'll be back. And got in his car and drove off after some illegal teachers.
They can't deal with it. It's if you know how to play the game, they cannot deal with you. There's nothing that they can do. And you've got to be aware that this is not about having one set process where you can go into a courtroom with an affidavit or a notice of intent. Every court case is different, and it's done on its merits. And if you want to go into a courtroom and play that game, then learn the rules. Don't make up your own rules and go in there and say, well,
template, then they've got a defence straight away. Within seconds, as soon as they see 2 people saying the same thing, they say, oh, you're just on this website. This is nothing to do. We can ignore all of this. When you go in there and you face them with the truth, and this is the thing. Even when they stop you and they say to you, I caution you that you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you fail to say now something that you later rely on in court. You say to them, jolly good, get your notebook out, lick your pencil, I've got a lot to say. And then suddenly they realise that there's a finite amount of time until the end of their shift.
It's business.
They don't realise what the language is that they're using. When they get you in court, they say, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And you can only say to them, you worship if it's a magistrate, or your honour if it's a judge. You say, you want the first words out of my mouth in this court to be a perjury, do you? Because you and I both know that nobody on this planet knows the whole truth about anything at all. And if we were to begin to start talking about the whole truth, we'd be here for several lifetimes, even talking about the truth of this moment in this court. And once I've committed perjury, you don't have to listen to a single word that I say, do you?
Yeah.
So this is a thing. None of this can work.
Go on, carry on, sorry.
Say again, Dom?
I said carry on, sorry. I butted in. I apologise for the start of my conversation interrupting the middle of yours. But somebody just sent me a message privately saying...
Dom.
You say that again?
I said I was just beginning to rant again, as I very much enjoy doing. So
yeah. It's all good. That's what it's about: is getting things off your chest and basically seeking solution. And that's what somebody just said in a message. It's like, instead of all the hearsay, well, I don't know what hearsay we've been saying, but like, it's not hearsay. I've actually got first-hand knowledge of what I'm talking about. So therefore, they've said, let's talk about solutions. And that's what we were just talking about anyway, is the name game and not consenting to be the name and how to deal with it each step of the way.
Discussing the solutions and the attitudes that we need to adopt, or it's all solutions. That's what we're talking. That's what we're living.
My solution and Kali's solution, a French philosopher, Albert Camus, said once that the only way to live in an unfree world is to be so completely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And that's all that we do. We wander around and whenever we're accosted by the police, we say, hang on a moment, you tell us we live in a free country. If you're interfering with my freedom, then obviously you're not telling the truth. So what is the truth? If we live in a police state, then I'll change my behaviour to the kind of behaviour that's appropriate to a police state. You're not going to like it, but, at least we're being honest with each other.
See, with the term police state, I would say it's more of a corporate state.
It is.
Well, the police work for the corporations, for the biggest corporation of them all.
Yeah.
They've turned everything into corporations, absolutely everything. And they even want to turn Earth into a corporation under Earth rights. So it will be a nice, pretty little package.
Human rights, the way they declare these human rights and then completely ignore them. Are they going to be doing the same with the Earth rights?
Well, this is it. Once you've got Earth rights, you've turned the whole of Earth into a corporation, which falls under the Statutes and Acts. So it might be a nice, pretty little picture saying, we're going to save the planet. No, you're not. You're actually going to rape the humanity out of us and tax us and fine us when we try and be human, when we try and grow food. There'll be a license to grow that food, and then they'll tax you if you do not follow it. People are getting fined nowadays for having their bins that overfull too much. Stop making all that shitty packaging then, you cunts. This is the way I see it.
People don't begin to realise quite how big this conspiracy is. There's a post on our website, and I should mention our website for all the listeners out there, tomboy-pink.co.uk. You'll find we've got a blog on there, and there's an article about these things called healer cells. There's a woman who had a very, very aggressive cancer of the cervix, and it killed her in no time at all. And and they found that these cells reproduce wonderfully in a test tube. So everything that they say is being tested on humans, it hasn't been tested on humans at all. It's been tested on Henrietta Lacks' very aggressive cancer cells. And not only that, all your vaccines have been grown in healer cells and so on. So everybody now has got these cancer cells inside them. Good stuff, isn't it? You know, this is all planned, all the GMO stuff. When you actually understand the full implications of GMO, and you know, chemtrails are bad enough, but you wait till you discover what's really happening with GMO. It's crazy.
Go on, what's happening?
Gail,
we're rounding Gail's at the moment. We're talking to you from Gail's, and here she is, because she wants to say hello anyway. And
hello, lovely.
Hey, Dom, how you doing?
Pretty good. Good to hear your voice.
Conversation going on here with all the food and that, and I just wanted to add something which comes to my mind. We're all aware of all these cancer genes that could already be in us at the moment, but when you look in the supermarkets and that, what is it that they're forcing down everybody's throats, as in sugar, white sugar, all your salts, all your smart price this and your smart price that.
Chemicals.
That feeds cancer,
Yep.
feeds tumours. So it's a vicious cycle, isn't it? You know, this is already loaded us up with it, and now it's like we're all unwittingly feeding ourselves.
There are 101 different ways they're trying to kill us. This
But
is
you
the
don't
thing.
find out. I've got a solution. You've got the cancer, and then they say stop eating it. It's only when you've got it they say stop eating it. So why not tackle the cause before the symptoms instead of the symptoms?
Stop eating it now before you develop the tumours and that shit.
That was my bit of
What's the
info.
Solution.
Right, it was only 60 years ago, back during the Second World War, that everyone was out digging for victory, weren't they? Everyone had a garden going. They're all growing spuds and carrots and onions and all that sort of stuff. And came the end of the war, and suddenly everybody stopped and started going to the supermarket.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to get out. We've got to get food independent. If we're not food independent, then we are dependent on this system. And they're out to kill us.
And the health service.
So just get out there and start making gardens, community gardens, and getting food growing. Be the technology.
And then I'll bet you that every single one of our listeners knows of a plot of land that's no bigger than, let's say, 6 foot by 6 foot, and you can plant things in that. You can go and do a bit of guerrilla gardening and go and even just plant a couple of spuds there. 6 months later, you've got like loads of spuds, so many spuds that you'll have to give them away. And then there's a nice currency for you. Start giving stuff away. And then like people will be kind back to you.
Yeah, if you grow a few things, after a while you find that actually one of those things, it might be asparagus or it might be something else, you find that you grow particularly well, better than anyone else in your community. And then people come to you for asparagus, and you can, you can get some carrots off them and some other stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what you're growing, whether it be broccoli, carrots, or even cheese. Then like you've got something to literally trade with that's more valuable than any piece of paper or any little shiny coin with a face of a shape-shifting reptilian on it.
We've got to get beyond trading in any case. We've all got to be prosperous enough that we will be able to give to anyone whatever they need. This is the thing. How can we start charging people for their existential needs? And even bartering. Why are you bartering for existential needs. Everybody, by the very fact of being born, is entitled to absolutely every existential need that they have: food, shelter, clothing, water. And anyone who withholds those from you and demands payment for them is putting you into slavery.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Yep.
Do you know, Kazz once said that all what is really needed is for people to point out the obvious in simple terms. Nobody ever sees the obvious until it's pointed out to them in simple terms. And this is what we've got to start doing, seeing things for what they are. Get rid of all the fallacies and fictions like law and all that kind of thing, and see things for what they actually are. Then everybody has to behave differently.
Once again, I agree with that.
Tom Tulling says, how do we get out of council tax notice of intent? No, you don't give them any notices. You also don't give them any money. And then what happens is they come along and they take you to court and they probably lock you up and they probably put you in prison.
Yeah, they probably do all sorts of nasty shit.
They'll get bored of that after a time. The problem is everybody is trying to say, how can we keep everything that we've got and still fight the system? Well, you can't.
Expect to come into conflict with the system if you're going to take the system on.
If you're gonna, before you can even begin to take the system on, the first thing is you've got to be healthy. Because if you're reliant on their medical system, you're reliant on their system. If you're reliant on them for anything, you're reliant on them. Now, you know, I have this wonderful little cheek that actually I'm fortunate enough that that I got injured in the army, and so I get a very small £50 a week war pension. But you know, if I'm not paying all these taxes and so on, I can survive even on that. That's just enough to allow me to then take on the system.
Well, people are out there, they use the money that the Crown has created. Everything is done for them by this system of control, turning them into slaves very covertly, so they don't even know that they're slaves, and they're actually the ones that are building everything and doing everything without the need of this middleman called currency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's a con, it's a fraud, it's a black.
So, like, if people are driving about a Ford car that is created by Ford, and this is all within their system, it's them, and then, like, they create a body of rules that you have to play by, and this is like the Road Traffic Act and things like that. And if you're going to go out there and say, well, I don't consent to this, it's not honourable, it's not law, then they truly have created all of that, and they aren't very honourable, and they'll take everything off of you. So do be aware of that. Putting fee schedules and things like that in place. You're saying, oh, yeah, I'm standing upon common law. It's like the law of the land. It's not the law of commerce, not the law of the sea. So why are you asking for a fee schedule then? It's just...
Why are people trying to remain in honour, unquote, dealing with dishonourable people? Do you know, if you deal with dishonourable people, it's dishonourable. I'm sorry. There is no honourable way to deal with dishonourable people. Stop dealing with them. And if they come and deal with you, then teach them that they're dishonourable, and you're an honourable person. How can you possibly have anything to do with them? This is what I'm doing with the Gandhi thing. I'm saying, no, look, it's my sacred duty, absolute sacred duty, to stand against your system, to not take part in your system in any way. I'm a spiritual man, and you can't get me involved with criminals. So you've got two choices. Either you can say, oh, that's okay, Prajna, you go away and do your own thing and we'll leave you alone and we won't involve you in criminals. But I don't think they're going to do that. The only other choice I've got is to change their damn system so that it's not criminal and it's one that I can be part of.
And that's not going to happen, is it?
Well, it's not going to happen, and it's especially not going to happen because they think they're bad people themselves, because they've been bad all their lives, and they think that their nature is bad. It's not their nature that's bad, it's their culture that's bad. But anyway, they think they're bad people, and they think that they personally are out of control because they don't know themselves yet. And they lost me track, I'm sorry,
Well, I'd like to go back on that thing that Tom said about how to get out of council tax. And that's where a big part of the lawful rebellion sort of like movement was focused upon, especially with the videos of the likes of Raymond Sinclair. But what they weren't showing in these videos, and there's many of these videos out there, they're not showing what's happened afterwards. So people are going in there and making it look like they've walked out of court and the police couldn't touch them and things like that. But the order is still served and they'll still come for you. Like, there's people out there that go out there and put their videos out there and say they've got a fee schedule and, oh, if you take my car off me, it's not law and I don't consent. But these people, as you found out yourself, who have their cars taken off of them, they'll have them crushed, they won't ever get their fee schedule. And if they're saying, like, oh, well, it's a long, drawn-out process, you may as well say it's like the war on terrorism. It's just stupid. It's not going to happen.
It's all entirely artificial anyway. And the problem, the other thing that makes things even more complicated is that people go reaching back to the Magna Carta and Bill of Rights and all this commercial law and stuff, that none of these courts actually speak that language. Yeah, but every interaction that you have with anyone in authority, they will cock it up. They always cock it up. Look at when they took our van.
For them to make the mistake and
there are only a few reasons why the police can take a vehicle off the road. Because you're uninsured, we weren't. Because you don't have a driver's license, we weren't. And I did have a driver's license. Now, the only other reason is causing harassment, alarm, and distress. Now, a van can be inspected by VOSA, but in that case you get issued a notice. And so this is the thing, they cocked all that up. Because they cocked all that up, it was completely unlawful. Not according to Magna Carta and all of that old stuff, but because of current law. They're behaving absolutely criminally, even within the context of their own system. Do you know, my real break free to freedom happened when Tony Blair took us to war in Iraq. That's when I finally had it. Because in Nuremberg, Chief Justice Jackson said that waging an aggressive war is a supreme international crime. It's the supreme international crime. And if the head of our state is committing the supreme international is being a supreme international criminal, then he's in no position to set the rules for me, a spiritual man. Mm-hmm. So I'm free. Tony Blair set me free. Yeah, as soon as you see criminality in the system, you say, good, that means I don't have to be part of it, because I don't have to be part of any system that's criminal and corrupt. And this is the thing, is that people just you can't fight the system. It's impossible. They're all a bunch of crooks. It's a criminal system. Don't try and fight criminals. They get guns even when guns are disallowed by law. They've got all the weapons, they've got everything. Don't fight them, just don't be involved with them anymore. Just say no. And, it's scary to begin with because people think they're going to lose everything. Well, you will lose some things.
You'll gain an awful lot in the process.
You'll gain
knowledge of yourself.
A great insight into yourself and a great deal of power for yourself.
And you gain your own.
Yeah, somebody said in the chat room.
Really courageous to do this. You don't need to be courageous at all. You just need to be fearless. It's something else.
Somebody said in the chat room, if the lawful rebellion aren't going about it right, what is the way to do it? You can't just ignore them. And this is exactly what we're saying. I'm not saying ignore it. That's not a solution.
If lawful rebellion is your thing, if that's what works for you, then go right ahead and do it. But know your stuff, know what you're doing. If the Freeman way is your thing, then do that. But do whatever.
Even better, don't do it the way anybody else is doing it. Find a completely new way of your own.
Way.
Because the thing that defeats them,
there's more things that is wrong in my opinion, to the Freemanisms and the lawful rebellion, even though it's all about being honourable. That system is not honourable. You've got to get that in your head. So they're not going to honour you saying on a piece of paper, I'm not a piece of paper, I want to be free from your slavery, please. You're telling them that you want to be free from slavery when they control it all, and then like you're saying they're committing treason. Well, they aren't. This is the crown, so the crown is the only one who can be treasonous too. So how can they be treasonous to themselves? All the courts are owned by them and run by them. All the schools are government run. All the health system is government run. This is their system. Find your own path to freedom, whether it be myself was learning to forage, learning to be free from that system in the event of a collapse. If there is a collapse that's coming that is so big that there'll be a zombie apocalypse and everybody will run to the supermarkets when they can't watch EastEnders anymore because there is no electricity, and they're going to raid the supermarkets because it's the only food source they know. Yeah. It's not... My solution is probably not for anyone. Well, no, it's not. It's not for anyone else. My solution's my solution. Your solution will be your solution. Yep. I wouldn't want you to follow me just as much as I would hate to follow you. If you're following something, then you're not being your own leader, your own sovereign.
Yep.
That's what sovereignty is.
Don't be part of the freeman system. Don't be part of the sovereign citizen system. Don't be part of any system at all. Do your own thing. Pull little bits out of freeman. Absolutely. Pull bits out of sovereign. Pull anything that makes sense out of anywhere you can find it. Put it all together in your own way and confront them with it. Now, you get it wrong the first several times, but you will have an effect. And you'll build up confidence, and eventually you'll be free of the system. And this is what we all want to be, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like I was watching a thing the other night of, if anybody knows of Randy Weaver, who lived and had his family living on the side of a mountain, a little community going on called Ruby Ridge.
Oh, yeah.
They were anti-New World Order, they recognised the corruption, and they started being their own self-contained unit. But the propaganda tools come out and they said, right, because they've had meetings with certain people, they are white supremacists because they knew people that were. They said they were gun mad, they were crazy, they were anti-America, anti-government, but it was like they were anti-New World Order, and they didn't want this system coming in. And what happened was they ended up bringing in the military, bringing in so many troops and everything just for this one little family, and even shot the little kid in the back. And this is like, they were on the orders to shoot to kill and shoot on sight. So they were just shooting. The wife got shot in the head exploded over the family. Randy Weaver got shot in the arm. He survived, but so he got to tell the story and is still telling it. And pardon?
There's Waco as well as Ruby Ridge.
Yeah, and Waco, which was another thing after Ruby Ridge, where there was a community of people, which it could be seen to be a cult-like thing because he was leading this. What they do is, like, you can look at a community that's breaking free in this country, and if they had links to the BNP, and then if they had religious context, and then if they had people there with weapons, the government, and then if they've got any action that they've done, let's say like raiding a court to try and arrest a judge, then like the system has got the full propaganda tools that they need to discredit and attack in such a huge fashion. And like somebody else has just said, Dale Farm is another one.
Yeah, another one. Just look at what happened to Osho when he set up the commune in America. Now they poisoned people, and they poisoned Osho with thorium. Yeah,
I don't know about this one, to be honest.
That's how, there's lots of things that people don't know about. They should look back in the 60s, and they'll find that actually there are a great number of people that were doing exactly the same kind of thing that we're doing now, and they'll find an awful lot of support and philosophy and a lot of these ideas. It's not just in the current Freeman stuff you want to be looking.
It's our own recent history that's also been hidden from us, as well as everything else.
Yeah, even look at some of the greats like Thoreau. Some of Thoreau's writing is just absolutely incredible.
Is that David Henry Thoreau, babe?
Yeah, that's the chap.
I've never actually read any, but I will one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read
So,
it to you.
so we've got about 5 minutes left, Praj. Is there anything else on your a that you'd like to get off, or anything that you could offer people as words of advice?
There's a whole heap. The first thing is that people should really have a look at our website and find out in detail what it is that we've been doing. Now, remember that covers all last year. Last year, the system was dishing it to us. Yeah, and we just sat there and enjoyed it all. Didn't enjoy all of it.
It was tough.
But did our best to enjoy it all. And this year we're taking them on with a bit of teeth, and we're going back and we're finding. Remember that remedy comes after the fact.
Did you enjoy the chai?
We love the chai. You know what? I would love for someone to make a pot of chai.
You can't begin to imagine how popular your chai was. It kept going right until eviction day, and then everybody had a last cup as we were being evicted. Yeah, and as soon as we get some nice place like that again, chai pots coming up. That's if we ever get our chai pot back off Chester.
It's not looking promising.
And Chester Council,
So what have you got in your intermediate future of interesting things? Anything coming up?
Yeah, we've got a court case on the 28th, which anyone in Liverpool might find rather interesting to attend.
It's in the afternoon, and it's at the Community Justice Centre up around Vauxhall Way.
They love us at that place. They're always very polite to us. Yeah.
I mean, life's already bringing lots and lots of interesting challenges for the year.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be homeless any day now.
15,
too. Yeah.
We might have to go and stay with me mum, babe.
Disaster. I'm not making disaster. Sorry, Gladys, if you're listening.
No, it would be just as awkward for me mum as well, But anyway,
I'll be travelling up past Liverpool within the next week.
Well, you come up to come and stay with us.
Yeah, we'll do.
Living in the gutter, but come and stay with us.
Yeah. Well, it won't be the first, won't be the last time. But yeah, I think I'm definitely going to try and get up to this Ashton allotment project that the guys are doing from the radio. And
I mean, I heard little bits about the Ashton allotment, and I actually didn't realise what they'd been doing there. Phenomenal, brilliant, and stopping from making a golf course as well. Golf courses are one of my pet hates. I think we should all claim golf courses.
Drain the water from the top of the mountain lakes and take it down to water these golf courses, and then there's people
doing water for
and
flipping golf. Someone can hit a ball with a stick into a hole.
So these yuppies come and build holiday complexes and shopping complexes and push the indigenous people out.
But come and see us, Dom. We've been missing you, and it'd be great to catch up. And it's very nice to be on a show with you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting being this end of the show and hosting it, because usually I've been a guest. So thank you very much for giving us your time, and what a great show. Thank you.
Well, you're always welcome to it, Dom.
Bye, Dom.
Namaste, my brother.
Love ya, in the cash.
Much love. Okay, Bob.
See you soon, dude.
Bob, you there?
I certainly am.
Okay, so we may as well play it out with a tune then. And thank you for anyone that's been listening to me dribble on with Praj and Kali and Bob. It was a really nice experience for a first show. Thank you very much.
You were absolutely brilliant, man. You would have never known. You really wouldn't. You're a natural, Dom. You really are.
My ego says thank you.
You're welcome. Your ego can take a pat on the back from all of us. I do believe we may have Jane from Action Against Social Services She's telling everybody on Facebook that she's booked in from 9 till 11, which is quite true. She is, but we are still testing. So I'm hoping. I've not heard from Jane yet, but if you are out there, Jane, and I'm going to ring you via the server right after this next tune. So if your show's started, all you need to do is answer the server, and we will then stream you via the Dark City server. Thanks, everyone. You were absolutely brilliant. It's another little track from Albert Clark.
Searching through life's mirror, feels with the thoughts of my mind. Children, it's a show of creation. Feel to see, timely we creep, stumble we walk. Jaja guide us we sing, practice on, practice on. Chanting through thy days of old, I was so blind to see, so hard to work, to feel, to see and release what lies beyond the sight of human eyes. Jaja guide us we sing, practice on, practice on. Such an hard work, climbing and searching through our failure for the freedom of our home, which lies beyond the sight of human eyes. Practice on. Through life's mirror, feels with the thoughts of my mind. Children, it's a show of creation. Feel to see, timely we creep, stumble we walk. Jaja guide us we sing, practice on, practice on. It's such a hard work, climbing and searching through our failure for the freedom of our home, which lies beyond the sight of human eyes.